Hey guys, this is Doctor McFarland, and we are going to do a live stream for the month of November. And this is all about humbucker style tones. Tonight I'm playing my Eastman T59V, which is a 335 style guitar. I may have some other humbucker style guitars coming on the live stream very soon. But for tonight, I'm going to mainly play this one. I also have a Reverend Sensei that has railhammer pickups that sound really good. There are some fret wear on the first few frets that kind of make it go out of tune here and there. So, unfortunately, trying to get this thing to. Yeah. I'm using my phone as the main facial thing here. And then this is my secondary view, which I have my Canon M50 pointing down at the Headrush MX5. And I was hoping to get my main camera I was hoping to get that on the screen, but I think I have to have a separate cam link or something. Okay. I'm making sure everything is working okay, but if the main phone camera goes out, we'll just use the MX5 the rest of the time. So, y'all come on in. We're going to build some sweet tones for the Headrush. And tonight I am using the Headrush MX5. But what is great about all the Headrush units is whatever rig you build on one, they cross over to all the other all the other platforms, if you will. Because they all have the same DSP, all have the same core, 4-core, quad-core processor, whatever it is. And what is that behind me? Oh, it just looked weird. I was looking at that thing. It was like, what is that? But it's just a drill with some Kleenex behind it. And it looked like a doll or something. I don't know. So, y'all let me know what kind of amps you want to see, what kind of tones you want me to create, and we'll have some fun. So we do have Mike in the house. He says, "Hey, Doc." I say, "Hey, Mike." So y'all come on in. Let me know your name, where you're from, and which Headrush unit you have. Currently, we have the pedal board, which in most places is discontinued or out of stock. But I think they're just saying that until they get more parts available, because there is a worldwide chip shortage for most of the electronic world, whether you're dealing with computers or guitar gear, which essentially a Headrush or a Helix or a Quad Cortex or any of these maulers, they are essentially just computers. They have hardware, they have software built into them, and they are, by all means, they are a computer. So it's just a separate piece of hardware that we can use outside of our actual computer to create different sounds. So Mike still says he's still waiting for his pedal board, which is cool. Showing current scenes, showing all scenes. Yeah, we want to show these in all scenes. Definitely want to show them in all scenes here. I am using Ecamm Live for my live streaming software, and I'm still working out the glitches here and there, making sure everything's working okay. But you let me know what you want to see and if everything is sounding good so far. So, cool thing about the Headrush is we can just take our little finger, we can push on a block, and we can add an amp. Okay. Now, most of the time I start off with the clean tones, but let's go with the Marshall stuff for now. Okay. And this pulls in a 65J45 amp. And I was hoping to get this a little bit clearer. I'll start messing with this. It's going to probably... Yeah, that looks all right. So J45 Marshall amps, a little different beast than the super leads, and definitely a different beast than the lead 800 amps and whatever else. But we do have a normal volume and a high volume. And if you've ever seen the front of a classic Marshall amp, they have 4 different inputs. And what is very popular is taking a very short lead cable and jumping from the normal volume channel to the high volume channel. And that gives you the cascading type gain type sound. But in this instance, on the Headrush, we can just use any amount of volume on the normal volume and any amount of volume on the high volume to kind of blend in the sounds we want. So let's just see what happens. All right, now to my ears, that's very flubby in the low end. So I'm going to back off the gain a little bit here. Let's go into the 70% range. And my phone says it's dying, but I'm not quite sure what's happening. So all right, so without anything happening at all, I hadn't done anything really yet. I just adjusted the gain. This does have a 2x12 silver cone cab. Let's go with a 4x12 cab on this one, folks. And we have a few different options. We can have the classic 30 watt, a 65 watt, 2 different greenback options, which is a 25 watt and a 20 watt. And I do like the 2x12 B30 amp. But let's just stick with a classic 30 on this one. Now I hear my guitar through my headphones. These are actually open back headphones, which means I kind of hear the room around me. But if you hear the guitar more than my voice, just let me know. Dear Elizabeth is in the house. We did have a good Thanksgiving, and Elizabeth went up to Colorado for the holidays, and she made it back safe, so that's great. So welcome back, Elizabeth, to the live stream. Okay. Now, what's interesting is the more you learn about guitar signal chains, the more you realize that the cab, whether that's a speaker cab or an impulse response, whatever that is, that makes up a lot of the sound that you're going to get in your final results. So with that said, let's bring in another cab. Now it's going to be let's do a 25 watt greenback. So we're going to turn the Vintage 30 cab off, and now we're going to listen to just the greenback one. Okay, and we'll toggle back. We'll turn on the Vintage 30. Okay, so think of Vintage 30s as being a little bit more scoop sounding, and greenbacks is being more barky, having more mid-range kind of stuff. So what I can do now is I can actually tap on the cab and hit 2 times. So now it gives me 2 cabs. And what I can do from there is actually add in a cab that kind of complements the vintage 30 sound. And that could be a greenback, for instance. We'll put this on axis. And on our output, we have the rig width 100%. So we should be hearing some stereo-ness going on right here. I'm going to go to my Focusrite. Where's my Focusrite? Oh, there it is up there. Hello. So I'm clicking on headphone number 2. And I do have these panned hard left and right. Let's make sure the loopback channel is panned left and right, and it's not. So let me pan those so you can hear the stereo-ness as well. Cool. So if I double tap on this one and I turn down the amp gain, for instance. Okay, it's not doing a whole lot there. How about output gain? I was trying to see if I could bring the volume of one cab down so I can just hear one of them, but... Okay, I like that. Let's add in a little bit of reverb. And we'll do some air verb. And we'll do ambient. Bring the time down. Bring the mix down. Pretty good. Now, an option with your Headrush is you can either use your finger on the touchscreen. But sometimes, this is a pretty small touchscreen here on the MX5, you can use the encoder knob here and push on it. And you can go between your different parameter options. Then when you get to the one you want, push again, and now you can just use that to turn back and forth. Okay. I'm going to go to global settings and make sure my brightness is down. So you can probably see it just a little bit better there. Okay, it's still a lot. Bring the time down. Bring the mix of that down. All right, so if we go like a... you still hear a little bit of flubbiness going on in that low end. Could just be the amp, could just be Headrush. I'm not really sure, but we're going to save this as our doc. Actually, we're not going to do that. We're going to do HTS HB. If I can type on this thing, HB, and we're going to call it J45. All right, and we also have these in the HTS HB tones set list. So I'll go ahead and delete the passing lane one, because you can't really create a set list without at least one rig in there. What this allows me to do is I can view my rigs, and now I can see them across the bottom here. Okay. All right, so just for fun, let's go in and add a tube screamer, which is Rhett Scholl's favorite pedal. If you've ever seen his channel, he loves the tube screamer for some reason. But just for fun, let's go in and add a D1 distortion. We'll make it mild. We'll turn the distortion all the way down. Keep the tone down. Let's just see how this sounds pushing a Marshall amp. Very interesting, right? So we turn back on the tube screamer. And back to DS1. So where the tube screamer naturally rolls off your bottom end, the sounds like the DS1 keeps the bottom end in there and still does a good job of just pushing volume and stuff through the front end of the amp. So if you like that kind of sound, that's something that you can take advantage of. Let's put in a Bucket Brigade Echo Light, and let's make this 400-ish milliseconds. All right, let's talk about a concept here. Humbuckers naturally just have more mid-range and more output volume than single coils do. So because of that, sometimes it's good to match Marshall amps, greenback speakers usually sound really good with humbuckers. A vintage 30 can sound really good with humbuckers because it naturally has a scoop sound. So when you're pushing mid-range through a humbucker and your final destination is a vintage 30, you are going to get more mid-range naturally than you would if you were to play a Fender style guitar with single coil pickups, really any guitar with single coil pickups. And so in one scenario you can sound very mid-scooped and a little bit thinner sounding, and then in the humbucker scenario you're going to have a lot more mids, a lot more volume, and I think you would cut through in the mix a little bit more than just a natural single coil sound. That's why Fender style guitars and Fender style amps sound really good with a tube screamer going into the front of it, because it's filling in that mid-range that just is inherent. There's just not a lot of mid-range there in the sound from the get-go. So adding something into the chain that gives you more mid-range can go a long way. But in this case, we're dealing with humbuckers. So I think that sounds good. Let's try out the old Headrush tuner. Make sure old Bessie here is staying in tune. My guitar name is not Bessie, by the way. Definitely not Bessie. definitely tune before you play a show, and definitely tune before you record anything. There have been many times, to my dismay and failure, that I might start a demo of a song and it sounded in tune with itself, but it wasn't exactly A440 in tune. And then by the time you lay down a guitar and scratch vocal, it might still sound okay, but then you start laying down other instruments like piano and bass and another guitar and whatever else. You're going to find out really fast that you didn't tune in the first place, which is not good. Let's check the comments here. Mike says, this is the first live one I've been able to see. Well, good. I'm glad you were able to check it out in time. The Headrush live streams are kind of all over the place. I kind of wish I had a more defined schedule, but I am starting to do talk about gear every Tuesday. So that's not necessarily a Headrush thing. That's just an overall, talk about any kind of gear I want. And it's also like a Q&A session as well. But usually for the Headrush live stream, I'll do at least one a month. And I try to make it consistent, but through the holidays and just all the stuff that's been going on, and I haven't been as consistent. So I figured I'd do one tonight to get one in for the end of the month. So that way when December rolls around, I can have another topic and maybe do that the first or second week in December. So I am glad you're here. All right, that sounds good. Now what we can do is hit save and then save new rig. We'll call this HTS HB for humbucker. And we're gonna do an orange. Let's go ahead and do an orange amp. So we're gonna switch this out. And the cab link is off. So we're gonna go up to the where are these here? We're gonna go to the bottom. We'll put in a channel 2 orange. And now check this out. Now listen to this low end here. Now the low end sounds a lot tighter and not as flubby in the bottom string. The other one, for instance, so if we go back to our J45, it's kind of buzzy in the low end. That one's a little bit tighter in the low end. So maybe that tells me that the J45s were just naturally not very tight, which if you follow Thomas Blug at all of Amp One, and he's made Hughes and Kettner amps for years, he has those variations in his Amp One amplifiers, which are 100 watt amps. But in the silver edition is the most flubby. The mercury is a little bit tighter, and then the iridium is like for metal, like super tight, super chuggy types tones. So all right, with this amp, let's turn on the DS1. And then the Tube Screamer. So both very usable tones. It just depends on the kind of sound you're going for. for either a specific part or for an entire song or just whatever that is. Let's see. Let's check the comments here. After December 11th, I will be able to catch this Tuesday live streams. A lot of concerts. Cool. Sounds like fun. Now, this orange amp is based on the Orange 8030, which is a 2-channel amplifier. And what I can do here is I can actually bring in the channel 1 of this amp. And let's bring the gain down. There we go. So this one is on. This one's off. Okay. I'm confused. Alright, that's sort of distorted. Now, also, you're going to find with humbuckers, you're going to have to bring the gain on the amp down pretty far to get a decent clean tone. That really depends on the amp as well, but apparently with this orange amp and humbuckers, it's just very distorted. That was on the bridge pickup. Here's the neck pickup. So that's more of a warmer sound, which sounds fine. Get that D string in tune. Okay. Let's check the comments here. Elizabeth has to go. Mommy dudes are calling. I understand that. Hey, have a good night, Elizabeth. So even though it's not a squeaky clean sound, it's definitely a warm. You kick it back over to the bridge. Okay. Turning this amp off and turning the other amp back on. Okay, we do have a volume discrepancy there, which is fine. This is boost. Oh, here's the volume. Now, raising the volume on the amp itself will we'll push the power amp tubes a little bit more. So you are adding distortion when you do that. But that's just the thing you gotta do sometimes. So that sounds pretty balanced. All right, so I will make a scene or create a scene to where you can flop back and forth between those two amps to get a clean and dirty tone, but I'll do that at a different time. So at this point, let's add another amp. Maybe we go a little bit cleaner this time around. So HTS, HB for humbucker. And let's do a Saldano. And this one will be a dual amp as well. So we'll go here and we're going to choose. So there's the SLO clean. Where we bring up the preamp on that one. Back on the neck pickup. Okay, we always want to find our tone first, and then check the output volume to make sure it's getting enough juice on the output. Which that is a lot of juice. Let's bring it down to about 6 dB a boost, or just overall volume. So the output volume is just like a basic fader you can bring up and down, right? Let's check the comments here. We got Francis in the house, and hey Doc, hope you're well. And I'm doing swell. And we have just got an MX5 first impression. IR sound much better than the cabinets. That is definitely an ongoing debate amongst pretty much anybody with any model, you know, whether you like stock cabs or IRs or whatever. I was telling somebody either earlier today or yesterday, I mainly use stock cabs in my live streams just to show that, you know, I feel like I'm getting some pretty decent tones from just the stock cabs. But I do have a Doc McFarland IR pack from Sonic DNA that I'm pretty sure is on sale right now. All of the Sonic DNA stuff is on sale currently. So if you want to go get a great deal on impulse responses and help support the channel by buying the IR pack, that'd be great. But I also have some free Headrush rigs through the Doc McFarland Artist Pack that is free on the Headrush website. So go over to the Headrush website, download all the Artist Packs you want for free. Those are great starting points for any genre. There's all kinds of genres in there. And if you want to further help support the channel, you can buy a t-shirt from the links below, or buy a course from my website, or whatever you want. So speaking of courses, all these Headrush rigs that I build during my monthly live stream are available through the HTS rigs course on the website. And that is a one-time payment of $20. So if you want to donate to the cause and support the channel and get pretty much every Headrush rig I've made previously and all Headrush rigs I'm going to make going forward, then definitely sign up for that so you can take advantage of all the downloads and you can rewatch all the live streams and all that stuff. So, so there's a clean Saldano. Now we're going to go in and we're going to add an extended range because this one is just a beast. Let's turn the gain down on this one. And we're going to turn that on. So turn the gain down, turn the master volume down, something like that. I don't know why my phone keeps saying it's on 10%, but it's going to keep trucking along here. Let's check the bottom strings on this amp. Wow, that sounds good. Now, I do have a Classic 30 cab and a Greenback cab in here. I can put in a 25 watt. Let's change the microphone to like an MD421. Put that off axis. On this one, we can make it SM7B, which is the mic I'm talking into right now. We'll put that on axis to see what it sounds like. Yay, random blues licks. It's great. Okay, turn that one off. Go back to our clean cab. Maybe turn up the master volume. Alright, I'm liking that one. Let's go back to our lead channel. So I feel like having the Vintage 30 cab and the greenback cab with two different microphones, I think it sounds pretty good. I'm not gonna say it's the best in the world, but it definitely sounds good to me. Putting the microphone off axis, just like 45 degrees, brings a little bit more low end. So hear this, listen to this difference here. That is on axis versus off axis. Now my Doc IR pack that through Sonic DNA, it's essentially recreating my 2x12 cab with the Vintage 30 and the greenback in it, and you have two different microphones, and you're essentially moving the faders. You're balancing the faders up and down to get maybe more low end or more, more low end of like the ribbon mic versus the top end of the SM7, SM57 or the MD421. So there's a lot of different colors and variations you can get just by moving the mic around, and choosing different impulse responses through that pack. So it's definitely a good thing to get if you like impulse responses and want lots of flexibility there. Let's check out the comments here. We do have a super chat from Francis. I appreciate that. He just wants to say thanks for all you do, Doc. Keep up the good work. Appreciate that, Francis. I know you already have the Sonic DNA pack, and I'm pretty sure you have my Headrush course. So a super chat is great. I always appreciate that. And Walker Experience, can you give some clarification on how adjusting the cab output level affects your tone? Cab output levels. I don't really think the cab output levels adjust the tone that much. So there's amp gain. So amp gain is not doing hardly anything. The out gain, that's just a volume difference there. So that should just be the Vintage 30 on that one. Yeah, I don't really mess with the cab output gain, But I do mess with the master volume on the amplifier itself, because the higher that setting is, the more power tube distortion, virtual power tube distortion you're getting. You can adjust the breakup on these cabs. So here it is at 0%. Now, a speaker that is pushed to the max, almost to the brink of like actually breaking, that probably doesn't sound all that great. So you are essentially choking the sound because the speaker is just getting so stiff. There's not a lot of movement going on once you start pushing it really hard. But you can experiment with a little bit of breakup in there. I mean, you can just hear how the sound opens up at that point. So like I said, any kind of dual amp setup, I'll make sure I'll create a scene that gives us, you can switch between the two different amps there. So HTS, HB for humbucker. And now let's do a clean amp. And just for fun, we're going to do a twin. Let's just go in and do a Fender twin. Get rid of that head. And the twin in this one is a black duo. Something like that. And the Fender twin has tons and tons of headroom. So you can see we can crank the volume pretty high. Unless I just don't have it on. There we are. I gotta put it on first. Turn it on. Alright, there we go. We're getting some gain out of this. Check out the flubbiness going on. Right, it's just not a very tight sound. But it's a decent sound. So we're going to stay on the bridge pickup for a second, then move on to the neck. Taking that sound and then pushing it with a tube screamer. Pushing it with the DS1. It is a sound, whether you like it or not. It creates a tone, and it might not be for everybody, but all right, we'll keep that one. Here's the neck pickup. So you can can experiment with this amp by, bringing the volume down and then going to the output stage. So you're already getting into the green and the yellow, so let me bring the volume up a little bit more. You can turn the vibrato on, which is a nice touch. Turn up the speed a little bit. And change the intensity. And you can add the vibrato to a switch, which is really neat. I'm just going to keep everything in rig view right now. We can hold down these left two buttons to swap banks. See that? So there's 3 rigs. And then I'm going to fill up 2 more rigs here. So I'm going to hit save, save new rig, HTS, if I can type, HB. Let's do a Vox. Let's do a Vox amp here. For this one, we got 2 different options. We have an AC high boost. We have a AC high boost mod. And we also have the option for a MS30 kind of amp. Which actually, let's go with this one for now. Has a good amount of crunch to it. It does have a cut option, just like a regular Vox amp does. So the farther clockwise you go, the darker the sound. So counterclockwise is the brightest, and fully clockwise is the darkest. I usually go 60 to 70%. Here's the neck pickup, kind of rolled down a little bit. I just adjusted the volume and the cut, and everything else sounds pretty good. You can crank the master volume. But that does add more power tube distortion, so volume down. So really just depending on what you want to do there. Let's go to the output. That is pushing the volume a little bit more than I like. Alright. This should be fine. Let's add in a compressor. So I like the Dyne Comp and Attacks preset. Alright, that works for me. Let's hear the Tube Screamer. Alright, that sounds good to me. So it's not a Vox, but it's kind of Voxy. Let's see what Mike is up to. Says it's okay if you don't want to cover it, but was wondering if you could give a few suggestions for a boosted mid with no highs and lows, or lower highs and lows. So for that, I would just use a graphic EQ. So let's do graphic default. And for this one, it's just like the Boss GE7. So you have low gain, low mids, mid gain, high mids, high gain, and then overall gain. So what I like to do with the graphic EQ is use it as a boost. So check this out. This is with it off, with it on. And then I can, let's boost the mid gain. And what's cool about graphic EQs is it's only boosting that one little range. There's very little bleed from the right and the left of that frequency. So I can cut the lows and maybe some low mids. This is a little oversimplifying things, but a Tube Screamer and a Klon and any of these other pedals are nothing more than EQ pedals with different gain circuits. Because you're combining transistors and all these other little things, resistors and caps and whatever else, and you're predefining the gain structure of that pedal and giving it a certain voice as far as EQ goes. But it's nothing you really can't do with a good EQ pedal. A lot of guys like the MXR 10-band EQ for that purpose. Like if we boosted the low mids here. And here's the high gain. Now the high end there in that case, go back. The high end in that case is actually just getting compressed, so you don't really hear it poke out that much. But if we were to take this block and move it after the amp and cab, now it's a lot louder, and the brightness of the actual EQ change is post all the gain stuff, and you can actually hear it a lot better now. So not saying you need to have that much brightness. It's a little too much for me. But, you know, maybe boosting a little bit of high mids, some high gain. I'll also use a graphic EQ if I'm using 2 amp heads and I'm setting up some scenes. I use the graphic EQ, the plus 6 or minus dB boost, to kind of ride the levels of maybe the clean amp is not loud enough, so I'll boost it up compared to the drive amp, or vice versa, just whichever one is lower in volume. And I'll just use the graphic EQ after the amplifiers to adjust those volumes accordingly. So that way when you switch from one scene to the next, your volumes didn't just go all over the place. They're nice and consistent. So I put this back before the amplifier here, and we'll boost the mids and the highs. So too much of a boost. Okay, let's compare that to a tube screamer. So graphic EQ is a very, very powerful option when you're trying to get a different sound or just trying to find a sound that you like. I like that one. Let's go on to some Mesa Boogie stuff. HTS HB. Let's actually call this a Cali. A lot of manufacturers call it Cali because Mesa Boogie's from California. Let's see what Mike says here. Things that helps the current band is 2 pianos and electric acoustic. Was curious as how they might work that. Yeah, electric acoustic guitar, you can definitely do some shaping with your EQ stuff. So that's a good idea. Yeah, EQing a little bit before the amp, after the amp, whatever you want, is a good option. All right, let's go in and let's change our stuff here. Now we have a few options. We have a tread plate, which is your dual rec. We have a modern channel, raw channel, vintage channel. But we also have a M2 lead, which is a Mach 2 lead. Then we have a Mach 2 lead cap mod, which, if you know anything about amps, there's usually a capacitor on the input. And if you cut that off, somehow taking it out of the circuit, I'm not an amp builder or modifier, so I don't know exactly how this works. I just know if you cut that cap lead off, it lowers the gain of the amp. So for instance, let's just make a 2-channel amplifier here. And this one will be on. So check this out. Turn the drive down. Master volume. Now, it's not going to be squeaky clean by any means, but I can lower the master volume. And it is what it is. We'll turn that one off. We'll bring in another amp, and this one's going to be the, where is it? The M2 lead. We'll bring the drive down on this. That was a Master of Corn Dogs, written by Doctor McFarland there. But that is the amplifier that Metallica used, or one of the types of amplifiers that Metallica used for their Black Album and all kinds of different albums, I'm sure. But that just has a good thick... good meaty low end if we bring in a tube screamer. Sorry, I got way out of control there, folks. I'm sorry. I'm just jamming. I am jamming. Now, hear all that extra noise there? You can go into your input gain, and we can bring up the gate threshold right here. And if we keep it kind of in the 80-ish range, it's plenty low enough to where we can still sustain a note. It's not going to cut off your sound. Maybe keep it in the, like the 80 range. And then if we go in and adjust the noise filter, let's do this. So cutting out a lot of that extra low, that low noise kind of crud. Alrighty, so that is a good use case for the input gate. You can add your own gate in there, which is perfectly fine. But I always just use the input gate, and it works good for me. So we have Jordan Job in the house, and he is running 4-cable method into an EVH setup, and I can't get the wet effects to work in front of the effects loop. They only work behind effects in the loop. Check global settings and forums, no answer. You do have the. Let's do a rig real fast. So new rig. If you are doing 4-cable method, you first or last, whichever one you want, you need the effects loop block in the chain. Okay. Effects loop block in the chain. And then you'll bring in your amp. We'll just do we'll do this Mesa thing here. Actually, you're using EVH, so let's bring in a PV. We'll do the PV lead. We'll make sure the effects loop block is after the amplifier. And then we can bring in a tube screamer. Just for fun. I don't know why it always goes to yellow. And then we can bring in, let's bring in a air delay, ping pong. Now, we're not going to hear anything right now because I don't have all 4 cables hooked up in the signal path. But taking the effects loop out, okay, that's a very extreme case. Let's turn down the mix. Let's bring in a preset, tight gate. And I'm not even saying this sounds great right this second, but yeah, not doing a whole lot here. So yeah, you want the effects loop block after your amp. Any effects going before the virtual amplifier, which you might not even have a virtual amp. You might just have. Are you using the Headrush as effects only, and going into an EVH? Because I have shown different examples in the past where you can use the effects loop block in or out of the signal path to bypass the preamp section of your actual amplifier, and then bringing in a clean or crunch or lead head, so you can kind of do both setups. Let's see. Let's catch up on what he's saying here. I didn't use an amp in the Headrush, using the Headrush for effects only. Okay, that's fine. So just check your cables, make sure it's actually working properly. You want the guitar going to the input of your Headrush, the send of the Headrush going to the input of the amp, the send of the amp going to the return of the Headrush, and then the output of the Headrush going into the return of your amp. And if you do that with the effects loop block in there, you should be getting pre-effects going into the front end of your amp, and then post-effects going to the effects loop of the amp. And if I had my can I do this? I don't have an amplifier hooked up right now, so I can't do it. Let's go down. Let's see what Randy says here. Greetings, sir. I thought my eyes were out of phase. I thought you were a lefty. Cough, cough, mush. I see what you mean. I see what you mean there. I can do something like this. Maybe. So epoch cam. We can mirror. There we go. I'm not a lefty anymore, folks. Once again, I'm playing my Eastman T59V. I may or may not be having another humbucker style guitar coming soon, but that's yet to be determined. Let's go with our dual cab here. And let's make the second one a 65 watt this time. 421. Let's actually make it a 409 just for fun. On axis. So Jordan, if you search my channel for Headrush effects only rigs, you'll see plenty of examples of how to set up all that stuff. So yeah, that's what you're saying. Malaysia is nothing ahead of that. Check your cables, because if you have it all set up correctly, then you should be getting dry effects or anything before your effects loop block to the input of your amp. Then everything after the effects loop block will be going into the effects loop. So I will be going live tomorrow night for my Taco About Gear live stream. So I will be sure to, at the beginning of that live stream, I'll be sure to show how to do effects only with the Headrush. And I'll be using my Boss Katana, because that's the only amplifier I have right now with the effects loop on it. Because my Supro doesn't have an effects loop, it just has a power amp in, which is really only half of what you need. All right, this is kind of a crazy sound, but we'll save it. So HTS, come on, HTS, HB, PV for PV. We'll take the effects loop block out. All right, so if we use our switches here, excuse me. So we have 3 rigs, all right here. We have 3 more rigs, right? Or do we? There we go. There's our twin, there's our Vox, our MS-30, our Cali. That's a beast. Go back down. All right. that sounds okay. Let's go to new rig, amp. Let's go ahead and make a, let's do a Tweed Princeton. It's kind of a small. Let's do that one just for fun. See what this sound is. These amps were made to be cranked, so. Actually, let's see here. Maybe choose Tweed Deluxe. Nah, let's just keep with the Prince. We'll crank it all the way. Okay, add in some reverb. We'll do a spring reverb on this one, which these amps didn't have spring in the original amp, but if we put the spring before the amp and bring down the mix of this a little bit. Yeah, it has an interesting sound before the amp, but this is with it after the amp. So it doesn't pop out in the mix as much because you're not having the distortion of the amp amplifying the reverb sound. So all right, we're gonna bring it on home here. And we're gonna add let's add a 250 drive to this. Bluesy. It is a sound. It's not the greatest sound in the world. It's kind of small and compact sounding, but it works. T. Edit rig name. HTS HB TW for Tweed. Alright, one more from scratch. We're going to do an ambient one. Let's just bring in a good old Princeton reverb. I do like the 2x12 cab on this. Let's put a ribbon on axis. All right, reverbs. We're going to put in an air verb, ambient, crank up the time, the infinite. Dennis Meyer says, proud to be a new member of the Headrush family. Welcome aboard, Dennis. Which one do you have? Do you have the pedal board, the gig board, or the MX5? Let us know. So infinite reverb, if you're playing slow enough, it can sound pretty good. But if you're playing a lot of chords, then all the overlapping overtones and stuff can start sounding a little muddy. Maybe like 10 seconds or so. Let's go into the cab and adjust the output gain. Instead of going into the output, we'll check the output. Okay. Some people like adding a compressor at the end. So let's see what that does. Bring the ratio down. Bring the attack time up. Usually like 10 to 20 milliseconds is pretty slow. I'm going to bring the release all the way down. Let's bring in a delay. We'll do the dyne delay. We'll do stereo. And feedback up. Our ratio actually adjusts the timing of the delay. So at 0, it is true to the delay time. But once you start adjusting the ratio, like if you're bringing it down to 50, and that makes it kind of like a dotted eighth kind of thing. Something like that. We'll bring in another delay. Let's make it reverse this time. What if we brought in another compressor at the beginning? We'll get really crazy. Mix of these down. I didn't play it. I changed the last note intentionally. What song am I playing? Move our amp and cab down a line. And let's add a few more things here. We have a cool little ambiverb. which is kind of neat. Save this real fast. HTS HB AMB. All right, let's go into our looper and let's check this out. So, press record. Here we go. Hold down the looper, and stop. So there you go, guys. We have yeah. We got 3 banks. So nine rigs in total here. All kinds of cool stuff. That definitely gives you a mid-range sound. That'd be cool to do a solo with or something. Alright guys, I will have these loaded up to the website probably tomorrow. I have some studio stuff I need to do tonight before I go to bed. But yeah, it's going to be a good month of December. We got a lot of cool videos coming up. Doing a lot of comparison videos and a lot of talk about gear Tuesday videos, live streams. So if you want to support the channel in another way, you can use my affiliate links down below. That takes you to Amazon and also to Sweetwater. If you want a Headrush backpack or a Headrush expression pedal or want another Headrush or want something else, maybe you want a guitar or maybe you want another pedal or I don't know what you want. But if you were going to go buy it anyways, make sure you click through my link first and then go purchase whatever you're going to purchase anyway. And that gives me a little bit of kickback from Sweetwater or Amazon. And that greatly goes to help support the channel. So be sure to check the links in the description, which I'll add here shortly. And check out my website, drmcfarlandstudios.com. And until next time, I'll see you in the next video. Keep rocking.